Chapter 556, I didn't arrange for you to meet the old general. Before leaving, Yingxue still kissed his cheek reluctantly. Yihan's expression was cold as he walked out, but the corners of his mouth unconsciously curved. Inside the ninth prince's mansion, the people who had already rested began to count the gifts in the boxes according to Yihan's instructions. The boxes, which filled the 2 courtyards, were all the betrothal gifts Yihan had prepared for Yingxue. Outside the study, servants were counting the gifts. Inside the study, Mochi and the old steward were with Yihan. Yihan held a long list of gifts in his hands. If it weren't for Mochi holding it, it would have fallen to the ground. Yihan's handsome brows were still tightly knitted. Isn't this betrothal gift a bit too small? The old steward almost sprained his ankle as he stood on the flat ground. Your Highness, this gift list is 3 times more than when the emperor married the empress. Still too little. There wouldn't be a second mansion in the entire Great Qing dynasty that could write such a gift list, right? Even if it were the emperor, if he took it out at once, he would have heartache for a long time. Their Highness found it too little. Update on B Omicron X0 VL. C Omicron MMO was more intelligent. He was used to his master's romantic gestures and would say, Your Highness, I feel that adding more will burden the future princess. Not only does the Marquis Manor not have such a large space to store things, but old General Su's integrity is noble. He will let the princess bring back all these betrothal gifts as dowry. At that time, it will tire the princess out. Yihan instantly made a decision. If that's the case, there's no need to add more. Wait for my order and send it to the Marquis Manor immediately. Yes, Your Highness. The old steward went to prepare. Only Mochi asked a very crucial question. Has Your Highness agreed with the future princess? When is Your Highness going to propose marriage? Yihan had been busy preparing for the marriage proposal for a long time, but old General Su had yet to meet Yihan. Did Miss Su not have any plans? Yingxue sneezed hard on the bed. She suspected that someone was cursing her. Yihan's expression was grave. Old General Su didn't see me after he returned to the Marquis Manor. At night, Yingxue's behavior was also a little strange. She avoided mentioning the matter of him meeting old General Su. When he was in the Marquis Manor, he had been fooled by Yingxue. But now that he thought about it, it must be that old General Su has been away from home for too long and just wants to reunite with his family. Mochi felt that this matter was very reasonable. Yihan was skeptical. Perhaps so. However, he had to understand old General Su's attitude towards him. After Yingxue was done with the clinic, she set the family banquet for 3 days later. She invited her 3 uncles and aunt to bring their children back to the residence for a reunion. The family was happy and harmonious. She had also sent an invitation to the prince's mansion of Yangon County, but she had asked Deputy General Su Wei, who was by her grandfather's side, to send the invitation. She had caused trouble in the prince's mansion of Yangon County a few times, so it was inevitable that the other party would resent her. However, Su Wei represented his grandfather. No matter how deep the regional prince's mansion's hatred towards her was, they could not dare to disobey his grandfather's orders. Su Wei sent the invitation to the regional prince's mansion. Chu Xiaotian received him very politely and solemnly promising, 3 days later, one will personally bring Heartless back to the Marquis Manor to visit the old general. Su Wei cupped his hands and said, The old general is at home and is waiting for Your Highness. It's just that. Why don't one see the princess? Before he came here today, Su Qingji asked him to check on Su Han. Chu Xiaoshan's eyes darkened, but there was a faint smile on his handsome face. Heartless has not recovered from her surgery and has been resting in bed. It's not convenient for her to come out and meet people. 111 Bring her back in 3 days. Chapter 557. Please save the miss. When Su Wei heard this, he smiled and took his leave. Just after he departed, Jifin, who was pouring water for Su Han, caught sight of him. Her eyes sparkled with hope. Miss, look. Isn't that person wearing armor from the general manor? Could it be that they've come to rescue us, miss? She was filled with excitement, tears almost welling up in her eyes as she looked at Su Han's current suffering. However, there was no light in Su Han's eyes. She resembled a precious jade buried in the rubble, still mesmerizingly beautiful, yet shrouded in the darkness of the regional prince's mansion. Jifin, sent by Qin Wan to attend to Su Han, cried and choked out, Miss, you were raised in the Marquis manor since childhood, pampered and sheltered. When have you ever endured such hardship? Moreover, you've just undergone surgery, and your wounds haven't even healed yet. After emptying the dirty water, Su Han's lovely face remained indifferent. Enough talk. Let's get back to work. Miss. Jifin anxiously stomped her foot, putting down the basin and moving to chase after Su Wei. She shouted after him, Save Miss, General, please save Miss. Seize her for me. Chu Xiaotian waved his hand, and Jilan was quickly apprehended and brought before him. Chu Xiaoshan's typically refined face darkened. Did Su Han instruct you to seek help? His menacing expression caused Jifin to tremble involuntarily. She hurriedly shook her head. No, Miss didn't let me seek help. It's just that one couldn't bear to see Miss suffer, wretched servant. Update on B Omicron X0 VL. C Omicron M. Before she could finish her sentence, Chu Xiaotian forcefully kicked her, and then issued a cold command. Men, take her out and sell her. Yes, Your Highness. The steward came with his men to drag Jifin away. Hold on. Su Han set the basin aside. Despite finishing her menial task, she still exuded the grace of a noblewoman before Chu Xiaotian. Her voice rang out clear and firm. Jifin is my servant, a member of the Su family. Her indenture belongs to the Su family, and Your Highness has no authority to sell her. Su Han glanced at Jifin and instructed, Jifin, rise. Let's return to our duties. Jifin wiped her tears, swallowing her grievances. She broke free from the steward's grasp and complied, Yes, Mississippi. Su Han, halt right there. Chu Xiaotian grabbed her shoulder, yanking her towards him roughly. Su Han, why do you pretend to be so noble? Weren't you angry and resentful towards me? Let me tell you, that person who just left is a trusted aide of your grandfather from the Marquis manor. Your grandfather sent him to inform me that in 3 days, I will escort you back to the Marquis manor for a banquet. Your grandfather intends to reunite the family and subtly remind me to treat you well, isn't that so? Your Su family consists solely of military generals, and yet you think to prop yourself up and stand above me just because of your military achievements. Su Han knew she couldn't break free from his grasp and chose not to argue. Instead, she remained composed and responded, Your Highness, you're mistaken. Grandfather has been away for a long time and simply wishes for a family reunion. If you don't wish to attend, you needn't. Not attend. If one don't attend, then I'll send you back to your parents' home to complain, and let your ruthless sister, Su Yingxue, attack the regional prince's mansion and cripple me, won't I? With the added pressure from the 9th imperial uncle, will your Su family then seek to dethrone me? Chu Xiaoshan's words dripped with scorn. Initially, Su Han had no intention of arguing with him, but seeing his persistence regarding the Su family, her delicate features turned icy. It's merely an invitation to a family banquet. Why does Your Highness care so much? Are you torturing me, or are you torturing yourself? Chapter 558. He was unwilling to let Su Yingxue off just like that. You fear the Su family's power, harbor resentment towards my sister, yet cannot direct your anger towards them. Heartless is already doing something to let your Highness vent your anger. What more does your Highness want? What more do I want? Su-han, who gave you the right to speak to me in such a tone? Chu Xiaotian couldn't help but push her forcefully to the ground. He felt a burning sensation on his face. His status and dignity had been trampled by the Su family and Su-han. Your Highness, Heartless knows that Yingxue has embarrassed and made you feel uncomfortable. You can punish me however you want. 3 days later, one will accompany you to the family banquet and face my family. One will not let my family know anything about it. One hope that your Highness will have some self-respect for what has happened in the manor. Don't trap yourself for something that is not worth it. I will become a stranger to you. Su-han sighed heavily and took Yihan back to the basin to do the dirty work again. Seeing Su-han take Yihan away, the housekeeper wanted to ask, Your Highness, are you still selling this maid? Get lost. Chu Xiaotian roared angrily. The butler was so frightened that he shivered and quickly disappeared. Chu Xiaotian shut himself in the study gloomily. A dark shadow was observing the change between him and Su-han. Seeing Chu Xiaoshan's anger, it turned around and went to Min Jia's courtyard. Min Jia was injured by Chu Yihan. Not only did she break her leg, but her internal organs were also damaged. Even the imperial physician in the palace had a headache when he saw her injuries. Madame Sheng and the old regional prince had doted on her since she was young, and now they were so distressed that they wiped their tears every day. Madame Sheng even cursed Su Yingxue's ancestors. That bitch Su Yingxue. She would die a horrible death in the future. Die a horrible death. All right, madam, don't say any more. It's useless to say more. The old regional prince shook his head repeatedly. Although his heart ached for Min Jia, he was a reasonable person. He looked at his daughter who was in pain on the bed and blamed himself. One didn't discipline Min Jia properly. If she wasn't so arrogant, she wouldn't have ended up like this. With her body, how can she get married in the future? Putting aside the fact that the incident between her and Su Yingxue had spread throughout Jiangdu City and how damaging it would be to her reputation, which noble family's wife would not be healthy. Min Jia had broken her leg and suffered a serious injury. Which noble family would want her in the future? Tears streamed down the old regional prince's face. He had only sighed for a while when Madame Sheng flew into a rage and shouted, What do you mean by saying more is useless? She, Su Yingxue, is only the daughter of a mere marquis manor. This is the regional prince's manor. Min Jia was the county lord personally conferred by the emperor. How much higher was her status than Su Yingxue? Oh. As a father, instead of standing up for your daughter, you're scolding her. When Madame Sheng thought about how the old regional prince was also a member of the imperial family, yet he was so submissive in front of Chu Yihan that he didn't even dare to breathe loudly, she was furious. She vented all her anger on the old regional prince and punched him twice, telling him to get lost. The old duke had no choice but to distance himself from the mother and daughter. On the bed, Minjia cried so hard that her voice was hoarse. She even shouted, Mother, I'm not willing to accept this. I'm not willing to let Su Yingxue off just like this. Imperial uncle had been so ruthless to me. I want to break Su Yingxue's legs and turn her into an ugly monster. Good, good, good. My dear daughter, you should recuperate first. When you recover, one will think of a way to avenge you. Madame Sheng gritted her teeth. Wanna gift the story? Try one. Xiongmianti vote ID send gift 0 comment 2 left chapter 559. Women must submit to him. She even harbored thoughts of killing Su Yingxue. However, she couldn't lay a hand on Su Yingxue. If she couldn't touch Su Yingxue, she would go and target that beloved sister of hers. Madame Sheng went to Su Han's courtyard. There was no one there. Su Jinxuan quietly entered and placed the gift that he had prepared on the bed. He said softly, "Jar, are you feeling better?" "Oh." Brother Jinxuan. Min Jia quickly covered her face with the blanket. "Brother Jinxuan, don't look at me. My face was beaten up by Su Yingxue. I can't face anyone. Be good, I'm worried about you. Let me take a look." Su Jinxuan patiently coaxed Min Jia for a long time. From her face full of hatred, she was now lying in his arms, speaking gently as if she had become a different person. Min Jia leaned into Su Jinxuan's arms. Her eyes were filled with gentleness. She couldn't see the indifference in Su Jinxuan's eyes. After coaxing her, Su Jinxuan whispered a plan into her ear. Min Jia's heart skipped a beat when she heard it. Can one? What if Su Han resists? Moreover, mother said that your grandfather is back. If your grandfather scolds brother, he'll suffer. No matter how great my grandfather's contributions are, he's just a general. Your brother is a regional prince. There's a huge difference in their statuses. How can my grandfather scold your brother? Su Jinxuan's eyes were filled with gentleness. When Min Jia nodded and agreed, a trace of mockery flashed across his eyes. Idiot. Min Jia was not cunning, so she did whatever Su Jinxuan said. She promised Su Jinxuan that she would do it. Su Jinxuan's long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly, and his voice was as sinister as if it came from hell. Su Yingxue, you won't die, but the crime of causing your sister's death is probably a nightmare that you won't be able to escape from in this lifetime, right? Chapter 559, Women must submit to him. She even harbored thoughts of killing Su Yingxue. However, she couldn't lay a hand on Su Yingxue. If she couldn't touch Su Yingxue, she would go and target that beloved sister of hers. Madame Xing went to Su Han's courtyard. There was no one there. Su Jinxuan quietly entered and placed the gift that he had prepared on the bed. He said softly, "Jar, are you feeling better?" "Oh." Brother Jinxuan. Min Jia quickly covered her face with the blanket. "Brother Jinxuan, don't look at me. My face was beaten up by Su Yingxue. I can't face anyone. Be good, I'm worried about you. Let me take a look." Su Jinxuan patiently coaxed Min Jia for a long time. From her face full of hatred, she was now lying in his arms, speaking gently as if she had become a different person. Min Jia leaned into Su Jinxuan's arms. Her eyes were filled with gentleness. She couldn't see the indifference in Su Jinxuan's eyes. After coaxing her, Su Jinxuan whispered a plan into her ear. Min Jia's heart skipped a beat when she heard it. Can I? What if Su Han resists? Moreover, mother said that your grandfather is back. If your grandfather scolds brother, he'll suffer. No matter how great my grandfather's contributions are, he's just a general. Your brother is a regional prince. There's a huge difference in their statuses. How can my grandfather scold your brother? Su Jinxuan's eyes were filled with gentleness. When Min Jia nodded and agreed, a trace of mockery flashed across his eyes. Idiot. Min Jia was not cunning, so she did whatever Su Jinxuan said. She promised Su Jinxuan that she would do it. Su Jinxuan's long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly, and his voice was as sinister as if it came from hell. Su Yingxue, you won't die, but the crime of causing your sister's death is probably a nightmare that you won't be able to escape from in this lifetime, right? Chu Xiaotian was depressed when he thought of Su Han's words. He felt guilty for Su Han after he drank in the study. He leaned on the desk and muttered softly, Heiner. You are someone who understands me, but why are you a member of the Su family? He hated it. He hated the Su family who had made him lose face. He hated Su Han too. She used to be such an obedient and considerate woman, but why did she become like this? She was so cold to him. She was so cold that he was scared. When he woke up in the middle of the night and Su-han wasn't by his side, he felt cold all over. He had just finished his drink when there was a commotion outside the door. There was Madame Xing's scolding and the wailing of women. Su-han and her servant girls were probably troubled by his mother again. Ever since Su-han returned to the prince's mansion and stayed by his side, his mother had been torturing Su-han in every possible way. Su-han was like a lotus flower, pure and innocent even in the mud. Chu Xiaotian stood up with a dizzy head and wanted to save Su-han. However, he looked out of the window and saw Su-han being pressed to the ground by the nannies. Her servant girls were crying, but she didn't shed a single tear. She was in pain. She should be in pain. But why was she so stubborn? Su-han, if you don't feel pain, you won't beg for mercy or submit to me. Chu Xiaoshan's eyes darkened. What he wanted was Su-han's absolute submission. He wouldn't allow her to resist. His woman must listen to him and submit to him. Chu Xiaotian closed the window and fell into a deep sleep. Madame Xing gave Su-han a good beating. Seeing that her skin and flesh were torn, she was tired from the beating, so she asked someone to help her back to rest. Chapter 560, Because of Love, I Won't Leave Up by Byoxen 0VL. Omicron M. Su-han and Jifin were covered in wounds. Jifin cried so hard that her voice was hoarse. She lay on Su-han's body and shielded her from many wounds, but Su-han's skin was still bruised and stained with blood. Su-han was drenched in cold water, and she was tortured. It took her a while to stand up. She and Jifin helped each other back to the courtyard. When the servants in the prince's mansion saw her like this, their hearts ached. Some of them remembered Su-han's kindness and sent some hot food and golden wound medicine to her room. Su-han returned to the door and brought the items in. She was a thoughtful person. She looked at the door where no one could be seen and said with a smile, "Thank you." In the darkness of the door, there were moving footsteps. Jifin entered the room with tears in her eyes. "Miss, you've been hungry for the whole day. Hurry up and eat first. You can eat together." Su-han carried the dishes out. Her fair hands were so thin that only a layer of skin covered her bones, which made people's hearts ache. Jifin ate some with Su-han and was about to apply medicine for her. It was the hardest time to apply the medicine every night. The wound on Su-han's abdomen had long been inflamed, and she had a high fever a few nights ago. Fortunately, Su-han was determined and survived. She also had the golden wound medicine made from the blood-clotting grass that Yingxue had given her. It was very effective in stopping bleeding, diminishing inflammation, and relieving pain. Su-han's body didn't collapse completely because of the medicine. However, every time Jifin finished applying medicine to her, she would sigh. "Miss, when will these days end? Could it be that Miss is going to live a life worse than death in the regional prince's mansion for the rest of her life?" Su-han shook her head. "It won't take long." In her eyes, the light danced. Even if it was just a small flame, it was her hope. Jifin pouted. "I don't think so. Your Highness is so heartless. Not only does he taunt you with his words every day, but he also makes you serve tea and do the dirty and tiring work that servants do. If it wasn't for Miss being generous to others in regional prince's mansion, and the servants not daring to bully and insult, and mostly helping us, how could young Miss Body withstand it? Besides, Madame Xing comes here every day to scold and beat you. Not only did she scold you, but she also tortured you like this. Miss, do you have any good spots on you? If Master and Madam knew about this, how would their hearts ache?" Jifin cried. I can't let father and mother know about this, and Yingxue too. They'll be sad, and they'll stand up for me. At that time, the conflict between our two families will be even greater. Su Han was understanding. There was no one in her heart who did not hate Madame Xing. Madame Xing had never been nice to her despite her compromise. But she knew that Madame Xing would grow old eventually. The person she wanted to spend the rest of her life with was Chu Xiaotian, not Madame Xing. As long as she could appease Chu Xiaotian and make him calm down, they would still be husband and wife in the future. She would still live happily with Chu Xiaotian. Miss, do you love your Highness that much? Jifin could tell that Su Han wasn't someone without a temper. She could tolerate Min Jia County Lord and Madame Xing until now because she loved Chu Xiaotian and did not have any conflicts with them. But how much love was there for her to endure so much pain and torture? Su Han thought of Chu Xiaotian, and a smile appeared on her pretty face. I love your Highness very much. Even if he reprimands me now and makes me do hard work, one know that he can't bear it. After some time, when he's no longer angry, he'll still treat me like before, and he'll love me even more. Chapter 561, Su Jinxuan's Plan Upped by Buoxen 0VL. See Omicron M. Jifin sighed. She didn't understand Su Han's thoughts, nor did she understand her relationship with Chu Xiaotian. She could only pray, I hope everything is as Miss thinks. Su Han smiled. She didn't have confidence in anyone, but after meeting Chu Xiaotian many years ago, she had always been confident in him. Even if she had experienced such despair. Princess. Princess, your Highness is calling you. Come out quickly. Outside the door, an old woman pounded on it forcefully. Jifin quickly helped Su Han put on her clothes. When they went out, they saw a fierce-looking old woman. Jifin instinctively protected her mistress. Your Highness ordered the tasks for the princess to be completed today. The princess needs to rest now. You should leave quickly. This old woman looked fierce, and she must be up to no good by coming to Su Han. Jifin immediately tried to chase her away. However, the old woman pushed Jifin aside forcefully and stared at Su Han. I think it's because someone from the Marquis Manor came today that the princess is acting so stubbornly and dares to ignore your Highness' orders. Su Han crossed her hands over her abdomen. Even though she was dressed, she still looked dignified and steady. You said your Highness called me, but you are from Min Jia's courtyard. Why are you here to convey your Highness' orders? Do you want me to report you to your Highness? The old woman's heart skipped a beat. Previously, she knew the princess was powerful, but she didn't expect her to be so sharp even in such dire straits. Su Han knew the old woman was up to no good, so she said a few words to ask her to leave. Unexpectedly, the old woman continued to harass her. Princess is still so arrogant now. I wonder how many more days you can stay as the mistress of the prince's mansion. When your Highness has a new lover, he will divorce you. What else do you think you can do? What did you say? Su Han's expression changed. Chu Xiaotian had a new lover. This was impossible. He would not favor anyone else. She had not gone out before. Under the pressure of Madame Xing, she had arranged 2 concubines for Chu Xiaotian. However, Chu Xiaotian had only gone to see them, completed his task, and given Madame Xing an explanation before returning to sleep in her room. He once said he was not interested in any concubines and only wanted to be with her. Because of that, Madame Xing scolded him a lot. Now, this was impossible. Su Han was determined. Jifin picked up the broom and hit the old woman. You are talking nonsense. Our miss will never believe you. Believe it or not, princess. Your Highness is in the study at the moment. He has favored the new woman, so princess can wait to be kicked out. Yihan chased out the old woman. Yifan's small face was filled with anger. She turned around and saw Su Han's sad face. She felt a little uneasy. "Miss, are you going to watch?" Su Han nodded firmly. Yes. Since there were people who wanted to play games with her, why didn't she expose their ugly act? The man she loved would never betray her, even if he was angry with her or tormented her. Su Han went to Chu Xiaoshan's study, which was brightly lit. Su Han knew that Chu Xiaotian would be reading in the study at this hour. She walked closer and was about to knock on the door when she heard an ambiguous voice. Su Han retracted her hand in fear. "Inside, what's wrong, miss?" Yihan saw that Su Han was frightened and quickly ran to her side. However, the voice inside became even louder. The woman called out in a very charming manner, "Your Highness, be gentle." Chapter 562, Completely Dead in the Heart, Your Highness. Yihan exclaimed in fear, covering her mouth. She quickly regained her composure and urged Su Han, "Miss, why don't we go back first? You must be tired today." If Su Han continued to listen to the voice inside, she might break down. However, Su Han stood still and refused to move. No matter how Yihan tried to persuade her, she refused to leave. Su Han stood there for a long time until the man's steady breathing could be heard. Not long after, the candle burned out. The entire study room was dark. The moonlight fell on Su Han's pretty face, reflecting her tears. Su Han stood in front of the study and cried, "Chu Xiaotian, you let me down, Heiner. Heiner." In his sleep, Chu Xiaotian heard a familiar cry. He struggled to open his eyes but was pulled back by the woman's soft arm. He only realized what he had done when he woke up the next day. "Get lost!" He shouted coldly at the unfamiliar woman on the bed. The delicate and weak woman wiped her tears. "Your Highness was very enthusiastic about me last night. Your Highness kept saying that my waist was very soft and that you liked it very much. Get lost. If you don't get out, one will kill you." Chu Xiaotian pulled out his sword from the bedside and chased them away. His heart was in a mess. When he thought of Su Han, he broke out in a cold sweat nervously. "Heiner, one didn't do it on purpose." On the day he married Su Han, he promised her that he would never let her down. Even if he was forced to take a concubine, he had never touched another woman. Chu Xiaotian didn't look good all day. He thought that he would bring Su Han back to the Marquis Manor in 2 days, so he went to find her. However, Su Han didn't want to see him and ignored him. She looked at him coldly as if he was a stranger. Chu Xiaotian couldn't stand it anymore. He pulled Su Han to him and yelled at her, "Su Han, what's your attitude toward me? Look at me. Don't just ignore me. You'd better pay attention to me." Su Ailan was forced to look at him, but her eyes were elsewhere. From the initial disappointment, frustration, and despair, to now, coldness. It was her only response to Chu Xiaotian. Chu Xiaotian was furious. "Su Han, don't play tricks with me. One will never bring you back to the Marquis Manor as you wish. Your Highness must bring me back." This was the first thing Su Han said to him today. Her expression was cold. Her eyes, which were originally filled with love for him, were now as cold as 2 pieces of ice. Chu Xiaotian felt a wave of fear. "Last night, you know. Who told you? Who is so nosy?" Chu Xiaotian wanted to kill someone. Su Han knew that he had betrayed her. Su Han's lips curved into a sneer. "Your Highness, you dare to do it but don't dare to admit it. Could there be someone in the regional prince's mansion who would plot against him? Even though Min Jia had intentionally asked her to listen to the conversation yesterday, Chu Xiaotian was unwilling. Who could force him? One did not do that. Chu Xiaotian felt a little ashamed and wanted to explain, Heiner, last night, Your Highness, don't find any excuses. I'm tired of staying in this regional prince's mansion. I'm tired of being a regional princess. Su Han stopped what she was doing and became cold. She was like a different person from before, and her words made Chu Xiaotian tremble in fear. You don't want to be regional princess, Su Han, come back. No matter how Chu Xiaotian shouted, Su Han didn't stop. Chapter 563, Odd Fourth and this day, Chu Xiaotian spent in fear. In the evening, Madame Xing came to comfort him. Son, you're a regional prince and serve in the 5 cities military department. How can you allow a woman to control you? If this gets out, what prestige will you have left? How will you command the troops in the future? Mother, one know what to do, Chu Xiaotian said, feeling even more frustrated. Mother is a woman, and I understand a woman's thoughts. It's just a passing fancy. Can Su Han leave you? Can the Su family accept an abandoned wife? Would their Marquis Manor's reputation still stand? The Su family still has several unmarried daughters. Do they still have a future? Su Han is just trying to show off to you, taking advantage of your love and doing as she pleases. It was rare for Madame Xing not to make a fuss. She spoke calmly to Chu Xiaotian. Chu Xiaotian felt it made sense, nodding in agreement. Su Han wouldn't dare to leave me. Su Han valued her family's honor. If she left, she would have no good days ahead. So, you don't need to bring her to the family banquet at the Marquis Manor the day after tomorrow. Otherwise, you'll give the Su family a chance to humiliate you. Isn't Su Yingxue insulting you enough? Haven't your sister and one suffered enough? Madame Xing started crying as she mentioned her grievances. Mother, one understand, Chu Xiaotian said. Madame Xing persuaded Chu Xiaotian, and he decided not to bring Su Han back to the Marquis Manor the day after tomorrow. Madame Xing left Chu Xiaoshan's study with a sinister smile. She went to tell Min Jia about it, and Min Jia was so happy she almost jumped up. She smiled smugly. Brother, you're going to the Marquis Manor alone. Doesn't that mean we can torment Su Han as we please? Mother, I want to break her legs and make her suffer as much as I do. Alright, Mother will break her legs for you. The Su family are all bitches. Madame Xing hugged Min Jia with heartache. Outside the window, Su Jinxuan's eyes flashed with coldness. At the Marquis of Marshal South's manor, although it was a family banquet, Su Yingxue had prepared for several days, so it was still very decent. Su Dingwei and Qin Wan were the first to arrive. They were talking to Su Qingji in the inner hall. Although Su Qingji was serious, he was still happy to see his children. There was a smile on the old man's face. Su Yingxue was welcoming guests at the entrance. Just as she welcomed her third uncle's family into the house, a rather expensive carriage arrived. Looking at the 3-horse carriage, Su Yingxue was puzzled. Who's in this carriage? Today, she had only invited the Su family and no one else. These 3 carriages took up half of the street. Only noble families could ride in them. Yihan followed beside Su Yingxue and was also very puzzled. Miss, could it be that Miss Han is here? Su Yingxue shook her head. This is not the carriage of the regional prince's mansion. Cousin is not a flamboyant person. The carriage had stopped at the entrance of the Marquis Manor for a while, but no one came down. The coachman moved the ladder and stood there for a while. Su Yingxue was also standing at the door. After a while, no one got out of the car. Instead, a cold scoff came out. Such a big Marquis manor, but there's no one who knows the rules. Su Yingxue smiled. This voice reminded her of something. It was her fourth aunt. Su Yingxue brought Yihan forward and smiled lightly in front of the carriage. Yingxue, you've been neglectful. Aunt, are you still not planning to get off? Humph, your Marquis manor is now so high that one can't climb down from it. How would I dare to trouble you, the Marquis manor's legitimate daughter, to invite me down the carriage? Inside, the woman's lazy voice carried a hint of arrogance. Her tone was still very firm. Chapter 564. It'll be rough when I have to be rough. Su Yingxue couldn't help but find it amusing. Her grandfather had fathered 3 sons and a daughter, each one different from the other. Among them, the most unproductive was her father, but the most affected was her fourth aunt. The other 2 uncles were both influential figures in the court. Her fourth aunt, still unmarried at the time, had her hair shaved off by her grandfather and sent to the temple to become a nun. With that said, it was clear that her aunt was not an ordinary person. Before reaching adulthood, she was already scheming to be involved with princes. However, her grandfather's taboo was against his children participating in the imperial family succession struggle. So, after discovering her aunt's affair, he sent her to the temple for cultivation. But her aunt's prowess couldn't be underestimated. Even in the temple, she managed to seduce Marquis Chang Yuan, became his concubine, and later forced the Marquis' wife to death, becoming the legitimate wife. Su Yingxue remembered her aunt in her previous life as a typical troublemaker, ruthless and causing chaos in the Marquis manor. But even after her grandfather's death, she ruled for many years and enjoyed great prestige. Inviting her back this time wasn't Su Yingxue's idea. It was her fourth aunt who, upon hearing the news from somewhere, sent someone to request an invitation. Seeing that her grandfather had passed away in her previous life, Su Yingxue allowed her aunt to pay respects. Now, with the senior Marquis' wife still alive, her aunt wasn't particularly glorious yet. But arriving in 3 carriages and putting on such a grand display was an attempt to show off in front of her grandfather. Su Yingxue wouldn't let her get away with it. Standing her ground, Su Yingxue said aloud, "Aunt, if you don't intend to disembark, please move the carriages aside to avoid blocking the entrance to the Marquis manor and inconveniencing others." Su Xinlan's expression changed. "Su Yingxue, I'm giving you face, and yet you're so disrespectful to me, your aunt." "How am I being disrespectful? Reminding you not to block the way is a kind gesture. Besides, considering your status, riding in these 3 carriages is quite inappropriate. And it's better to get off the carriage early to avoid being ridiculed." Su Yingxue wore a smile, but her words were sharp, piercing Su Xinlan with every word. After putting on a show for some time, Su Xinlan had no choice but to open the curtains and come down. Seeing everyone laughing at her, she couldn't bear it. She walked up to Su Yingxue, wishing she could shut her mouth. "Su Yingxue, don't think I'm afraid of you. You're just the Marquis manor legitimate daughter, what's there to be proud of? When I was the daughter of the Marquis manor, one was 100 times more glorious than you. You're just useless." Su Xinlan trembled as she spoke, her hairpins and pearls swaying. Su Yingxue chuckled, "Aunt knows you're just the Marquis' daughter, while I'm the legitimate daughter of the Marquis. It seems Aunt understands the difference in status." Su Xinlan's face turned pale, stung by Su Yingxue's words. This little girl was exposing her secrets in public. She didn't want to lose face in front of everyone, so she was about to argue with Su Yingxue when Su Yingxue immediately sent someone to drag her into the residence. Chapter 565. Su Han didn't come. Su Yingxue's stunning face bore a subtle warning. "Fourth aunt, considering your lineage within the Marquis manor, I haven't prevented your return for the reunion. However, if you fail to show gratitude, 1 a.m. capable of the same measures grandfather once took. I believe Madame Chang Yuan and the household members would be pleased to see you unable to return. You. Su Xinlan's eyes widened, her heart trembling fiercely. Su Yingxue, despite her young age, possessed a ruthless and unyielding heart. A fierce and menacing expression flickered across her delicate face, nearly causing Su Xinlan to grind her teeth. Su Xinlan stormed into the residence, seething with anger. Su Yingxue, just you wait. Despite the disdainful looks from everyone in the Marquis manor, she was determined to carve out her path and earn their respect, especially her father's. Su Yingxue had waited at the door for quite some time, eagerly anticipating the arrival of Su Han. Su Han had left after her surgery, likely due to her concerns. Unable to understand Su Han's feelings, Su Yingxue refrained from involving herself in matters concerning the regional prince's mansion. However, as the one in charge of the Marquis manor now, it was only proper for her to personally welcome Su Han and her husband, not only to honor Su Han but also to save face for Chu Xiaotian. She hoped that by doing so, Su Han would have a better experience in the regional prince's mansion in the future. Miss, look, the carriage from the regional prince's mansion has arrived. Yihan pointed excitedly ahead. A luxurious carriage, pulled by 4 horses, stood out even more than Su Xinlan's 3-horse carriage, emphasizing the imperial family's prestigious status. Su Yingxue instructed Yihan to bring a ladder, intending to personally greet Su Han. However, when the carriage door opened, Chu Xiaotian emerged first. A hint of disgust flashed in Su Yingxue's eyes, but she had no choice but to welcome Chu Xiaotian. Chu Xiaotian merely exchanged superficial greetings with her, and their mutual dislike was palpable. But as Su Yingxue glanced at the carriage, noticing no one descending, she called out, "Sister." No response. Frowning, Su Yingxue turned to Chu Xiaotian. "Your Highness, where's my sister?" Chu Xiaoshan's expression turned cold as he wordlessly entered the manor. After inquiring with the coachman, Yihan reported to Su Yingxue, Miss Han never boarded the carriage. She's still in the regional prince's mansion and hasn't come out. A sense of unease settled in Su Yingxue's heart. She retreated to a secluded corner of the manor and summoned Ziwei. Silently, Ziwei appeared before her. Su Yingxue instructed him, go to the regional prince's mansion, find sister, and assess her situation. If she's unwilling, bring her back here. Ziwei nodded. Understood. He disappeared without a trace, like wisps of smoke dissipating into the air. Returning to the front hall, Su Qingji sat at the head, flanked by the imposing Su Dinghui and the listless Su Dingheng. His 3rd son was still away on business, leaving only his wife, Madame Yin, and youngest daughter, Su Miaoyan, present. Except for Chu Xiaotian, who arrived late, everyone had already paid their respects to Su Qingji. Chu Xiaotian, a regional prince and 5th-ranked official, only needed to bow to Su Qingji. Yet, upon seeing him, he knelt and greeted, grandson-in-law Chu Xiaotian pays respects to grandfather. Su Qingji nodded in acknowledgement. Su Xinlan, always eager to curry favor with those of high status, eagerly approached them. Chapter 566, Don't be like 4th aunt. At that moment, seeing that Su Qingji hadn't instructed anyone to rise, Su Xinlan, with her sharp tongue, remarked, "Oh, your Highness is truly filial. Despite your noble status, you show such respect to my father. You are truly a paragon of filial piety." Chu Xiaotian raised an eyebrow slightly and glanced at her before replying, "Thank you for your praise, aunt." Being addressed as aunt by your Highness made Su Xinlan extremely proud. She even said to Chu Xiaotian, "Oh, this child is so polite. Get up quickly, get up quickly." As she spoke, she moved to help Chu Xiaotian up. Madame Yin kindly reminded her, "Aunt, father hasn't spoken yet. Su Xinlan's expression changed, and her outstretched hand awkwardly hung in the air. Pretending not to notice Su Xinlan, Su Qingji hadn't treated her as his daughter for a long time. To avoid further embarrassment and to save face in front of Chu Xiaotian, Su Xinlan could only turn to Su Dingheng. Second brother, the Marquis manor is now yours. You should say something. Should your highness keep kneeling like this? Su Dingheng silently drank his tea, with Su Qingji presiding over them. His voice was always very soft when he spoke. The Marquis manor wasn't under my control. Su Yingxue was in charge of affairs, and above her was his father. With Su Qingji there, he didn't dare to say a word. What else could he do? Su Xinlan cursed Su Dingheng in her heart for being spineless. Then she turned to Su Dingwei. Brother, your highness is your son-in-law. You can't ignore him and allow him to kneel. If this gets out, how will Heartless behave in the regional prince's mansion? It would have been fine if she hadn't mentioned Su Han, but Su Dingwei was like a lit firecracker as he glared at her and snapped, "It's not your place to tell Heartless how to behave. Go back and sit properly." Su Xinlan could only return to her seat dejectedly. Madame Yin, sitting on her right, held her daughter Su Miao's hand and earnestly instructed her, "Miao Miao, you must remember not to be so frivolous. Be careful with your words and actions." Su Miaoyan seemed to understand. She was only 12 years old, her innocent face filled with naivety. "Be careful." Su Miaoyan leaned against her mother and whispered softly, "Mother, don't worry. I want metal like Aunt." Madame Yin rubbed her head, feeling very relieved. Su Xinlan heard it all but didn't dare to go up and slap the mother-daughter duo. It was all her father's fault. He had kicked her out when she was young and even shaved her head. Now, the whole family looked down on her. Su Xinlan sat at the very back, gritting her teeth and thinking to herself, "I will become the Marquis' wife and be bestowed with a noble title. Then, I'll ruthlessly slap this group of people in the face. Let them all look down on me." Su Qingji hadn't given permission, so Chu Xiaotian kept kneeling. After studying him carefully for a moment, Su Qingji, although young, seemed steady and much better than his second son. After Su Qingji set down his teacup, he spoke lightly, "May I ask your highness why my granddaughter didn't accompany you?" "Yes, Heartless hasn't seen her grandfather for a long time at today's family banquet. She must miss him very much. Why wouldn't she come?" Qin Wan, not seeing her daughter, felt her heart tightening again. She was afraid Su Han was suffering again in the regional prince's mansion. Chu Xiaotian explained slowly, "It's not that I didn't want to bring Heartless out, but she's not feeling well. Heartless is not feeling well." "What's wrong with Heartless?" Qin Wan's heart trembled, and she almost cried. Chapter 567, How Dare You Neglect Your Highness? Before, Heartless underwent an operation and had not yet recovered. I believe father-in-law and mother-in-law are very clear about this. Back then, it was the two of you who hid it from me and had Heartless undergo some kind of operation. Chu Xiaotian's voice was very cold, and there was a hint of blame in his words. Su Dingwei's face turned ashen as he coldly snorted. Qin Wan was also furious, but she could not refute such accusations. After Su Han got married, she became part of her husband's family. Chu Xiaotian had the right to blame them for making decisions for Su Han. Why is Heartless sick? Why do her parents have to make decisions? Have your highness thought of how to explain this to me? Su Qingzi's dignified voice sounded, causing Su Dingwei and his wife's faces to ease up a lot. Chu Xiaotian, on the other hand, felt a pang of discomfort when Su Qingji brought up the topic. He hadn't investigated the truth behind Su Han's illness yet, but he had heard Su Han shouting that it was his mother and Min Jiao who had caused it. He knew his mother and sister's temper. Although they were hot-tempered, they wouldn't harm anyone. He thought about it and let it go. But now that Su Qingji asked, Chu Xiaotian responded calmly. Heiner had once accidentally fallen into the water in the residence. At that time, I was busy with official matters in the 5 cities military department and could not return home. However, the family had already hired a doctor for Heiner, and she would be cured in a few days. Unexpectedly, Su Yingxue suddenly barged into the residence. She disrupted the tranquility of the regional prince's mansion. If Su Yingxue hadn't interfered, he and Heiner wouldn't have reached this point. In that case, was Yingxue the one who was intrusive and harmed Heiner? Su Qingzi's gaze was like lightning as it landed on Chu Xiaotian, causing him to feel an inexplicable pressure. Qin Wan quickly explained, "Father, that's not the case. The situation was urgent at that time. It was me who invited Yingxue to visit and treat Heiner. Yingxue saved Heiner's life, so you can't blame her for this. We should thank Yingxue." Qin Wan's tone was sincere. Even Su Dingwei said, "That's true." Su Qingji naturally wouldn't trust his own family and trust an outsider. He didn't ask Chu Xiaotian to get up. Instead, he said in a deep voice, "Your Highness, when you've thought it through, you can tell me the details." Chu Xiaotian gritted his teeth angrily. Su Qingji was humiliating him. He was a dignified regional prince, and it was respectful for him to bow to him like a junior, but he didn't wake him up. Let him kneel on the ground. Now that he was kneeling, Su Qingji didn't allow him to get up. If he got up himself, he would be disobeying his elders and slapping his face. Chu Xiaotian was filled with hatred. Everyone in the Su family was as detestable as Su Yingxue. "Old General, the 9th prince is here." Su Wei walked in front of Su Qingji and reported seriously. "The 9th prince?" Su Qingji raised his thick white eyebrows. He was puzzled. Why did Chu Yihan insist on joining in the fun at his family banquet today? It was beyond his expectations. But since he was already here, he could not ask him to go back. He led everyone to welcome them. When he reached the door, he saw Su Yingxue and Chu Yihan standing together. In the bleak autumn wind, everything was withered and yellow. It was originally a desolate scene, but these two people, one in a red dress and the other in white, were like the collision of ice and fire, passionate and seductive. Both of them had such peerless looks. They were all so ethereal. This scene stunned everyone. Cough. Su Qingji was the first to regain his senses. He walked forward and scolded Su Yingxue with a stern face, "Nonsense. You didn't even greet your Highness when you saw him, and you're so negligent." Chapter 568, Wasn't It All for Su Yingxue? Su Yingxue had never bowed to Chu Yihan before, so she had forgotten about this. She winked at Chu Yihan with a smile in her eyes. In front of everyone, he was a high and mighty Your Highness. Su Yingxue stood behind her family and stood together with Su Miaoyan. Su Qingji took the lead in the Marquis manner and knelt in turn, kowtowing to Chu Yihan. "One greet the 9th prince." "Your Highness, all hail." Su Yingxue and Su Miaoyan were about to kneel as well. Before Su Yingxue's knees touched the ground, Chu Yihan helped Su Qingji up. "No need for formalities," he said in a clear voice. In this way, Su Yingxue's knees did not have the chance to land on the ground. She got up easily, but Su Miaoyan, who was beside her, did not stand properly. "I-oh." Su Yingxue helped her up so that she did not fall. Su Miaoyan's hair was tied in a braid and she mischievously winked at Su Yingxue. "Thank you, Sister Xue. Don't be polite. Little girl, you've grown so big." Su Yingxue rubbed her head. Su Miaoyan was the youngest among the many sisters in the Marquis manor, and she was the most clever and cute one. Before they moved out of the marquisdom, the two of them often quarreled. Unfortunately, after her father moved out, this little girl moved away with her third uncle. In her previous life, the Su family declined. This little girl married a rude soldier and didn't live a very happy life. Later on, her husband died and she remarried to a businessman. She didn't have to worry about food and clothing. She was the one with the best ending among her sisters. Su Miaoyan was innocent and naive. She shook the silk on the whip at Su Yingxue. "Sister, you're already so big, how can I not grow up?" But Ninth Prince felt sorry for you and didn't let you kneel, but one almost fell. After she finished speaking, she stuck out her tongue and hid behind Madame Yin, giving Su Yingxue no chance to catch her. Su Yingxue bared her teeth at her. Young girl. He would teach her a lesson later. A 12-year-old young girl was mischievous. Su Qingji and Chu Yihan were at the front, and it was unknown what they were talking about. Su Qingji welcomed Chu Yihan into the residence. In the front hall, Chu Xiaotian had already stood up, but Su Qingji had brought Chu Yihan over. His heart sank. He stood rooted to the ground, not knowing whether to leave or move. When Chu Yihan and Su Qingji sat side by side, Chu Yihan glanced at everyone in the hall and said lightly, "What's wrong? Now that you see me, can you not bow?" Chu Xiaotian gritted his teeth. "I wouldn't dare." Chu Yihan was only 5 years older than him, but they were one generation apart. He had to bow to Chu Yihan, and it had to be the same as when he met the emperor. Su Xinlan rolled her eyes. She thought to herself, "These are all members of the imperial family and your highness. Chu Yihan doesn't have to make things difficult for Chu Xiaotian, right?" She wanted to make her presence known in front of Chu Yihan, and at the same time, she wanted Chu Xiaotian to have a good impression of her aunt. She smiled and said, "We're all family. There's no need to be so particular about this, right?" As soon as she said that, Su Qingji glared at her angrily. "How dare you? Who gave you the guts? How dare he offend the Ninth Prince? Kneel and apologize to your highness." Su Xinlan had always been afraid that Su Qingji would get angry, so she immediately knelt. "Your highness. Please forgive me, your highness." But where did she go wrong? Chu Xiaotian sneered, "Old general, you don't have to be so angry. Aunt is right. If you are not a family, imperial uncle would never visit anyone. Why did you know about the family banquet in the Marquis Manor and come to the Marquis Manor? Wasn't it all for Su Yingxue?" Chapter 569, My Medical Skills. Chu Xiaoshan's eyes flashed with a hint of coldness. If Su Qingji, with his aloof and serious temperament, found out about Chu Yihan's relationship with Su Yingxue, who knew how furious he would be? Your Highness and the Marquis Manor are naturally one family. Su Yingxue shot Chu Xiaotian a glare. Was he trying to trouble her? Still, in the Marquis Manor. Su Qingji was suddenly taken aback. His gaze landed on Chu Yihan and Su Yingxue, and he suddenly realized, were they standing a bit too close? Upon hearing this, Chu Yihan's brows lifted in amusement. Su Dingwei and Qin Wan, too, were momentarily stunned. Was Su Yingxue about to make a public announcement at the family banquet? Su Dingheng tucked his hands into his sleeves, indicating that he knew nothing and didn't wish to hear anything. Su Yingxue showed no fear in front of everyone, but she was slightly worried about disappointing Chu Yihan. Approaching Chu Xiaotian, she looked down at him kneeling. Your Highness calls Ninth Prince Imperial Uncle. Isn't your Highness a member of our Su family? Then what about Ninth Prince? Ha! Su Xinlan sneered. I thought you'd come up with something. Father scolded me before. Father, listen now. Isn't your granddaughter trying to cozy up to the ninth prince? You have quite the nerve. And, it's you who has the nerve, isn't it? Sister Xue spoke the truth, but what kind of relationship do you have with your Highness? Why did you help him up for no reason? Su Miaoan's young voice rang out clearly. Though young, her words were precise. Su Xinlan's face turned red instantly. She turned around to look at the clever Su Miaoyan. Seeing that her third brother was not there, she raised her hand to slap her. You impudent little, Grandpa, save me. Su Miaoyan leaped into Su Qingzi's arms, crying out for help. Madame Yin, always dignified, stood up with a serious expression. Aunt, who are you calling impudent? Calling you out for the bast you birthed. Su Xinlan never adhered to rules, especially not in the Marquis of Chengxin's manner. Returning home, she continued in the same manner. Unable to bear it any longer, Su Qingji ordered coldly, Su Yingxue, bring out the family whip. Yes, Grandpa, Su Yingxue answered. Xilan fetched the vine whip. Su Yingxue twisted Su Xinlan's arm, forcing her to kneel. Raising her hand, she delivered a fierce slap. Oh! Su Xinlan's scream echoed painfully, tears streaming down her heavily made-up face. Su Qingji held Su Miaoyan and glared at her coldly. If you spoke impudently again, you would have been kicked out of the Marquis Manor. The Marquis Manor wouldn't tolerate your insolence. Father, Su Xinlan bit her lip, feeling aggrieved. As an elder, she had been slapped merely for scolding a little girl. How could she face this? When Su Yingxue helped her up, she whispered in her ear, Aunt, if you dare to misbehave again, I'll go to Changyuan Marquis Manor tomorrow and cure the Marquis' wife. Su Yingxue, you dare. Su Xinlan trembled in fear. A cold smile played on Su Yingxue's lips. I can save Consort Xiang and cure cousin. Do you want to test my medical skills, Aunt? Don't, Su Xinlan's legs shook. She immediately restrained her arrogance and impudence, obediently returning to her seat. She dared not let Su Yingxue treat that old woman. She was just waiting for her rise to prominence. If Su Yingxue cured her, wouldn't all her years of hard work be in vain? Chapter 570, Your Highness' hand slipped, it's really amazing. When Su Yingxue saw Su Xinlan's expression, she felt extremely disdainful. She was not someone who liked to meddle in other people's business. However, if Su Xinlan continued to jump up and down in the Marquis Manor, she would not mind giving her some trouble and making her unable to live in peace for the rest of her life. Facing the children, Su Qingji still doted on them very much. He coaxed Su Miaoyan for a while, Good child, Grandpa is here. Don't be afraid of anything. Su Miaoyan smiled, two shallow dimples appearing on her cheeks. She was sweet and cute. Grandpa is the best, Miao Miao likes grandfather the most. Su Qingji patted her head and let her return to sit beside Madame Yin. Su Yingxue had just said that Chu Yihan was Chu Xiaoshan's imperial uncle, so he was part of their family. Although her words had the intention of climbing up the social ladder, Su Qingji saw that Chu Yihan did not object, so he did not pursue the matter. However, he had to ask about Chu Xiaotian and Su Han. Your Highness, I wanted to reunite with my family today to see my children and granddaughters. However, I feel a little regretful that Heiner is missing. If it's convenient, please send someone back to bring Heiner here. Let Heiner stay with me in the Marquis Manor for a few days. This, Chu Xiaotian gritted his teeth. Su Qingji was not giving him any face. If someone else wanted to see Su Han, he would have 10,000 reasons to refuse. However, Su Qingji had military power and a high reputation. He was also Su Han's grandpa. He had been fighting outside all year round, and he wanted to see his granddaughter. This was a legitimate reason, and Chu Xiaotian couldn't refuse it. However, he had just gotten into a conflict with Su Han, and if Su Han revealed anything to Su Qingji, it would cause a huge uproar. Chu Xiaotian braced himself. When I went out today, Heiner was still resting in bed. It's not suitable for her to leave the manor. In 2 days, her body will be better. I will bring her to Marquis Manor to reunite. Your Highness, why are you so evasive? Is there anything you're hiding? Jinxuan noticed that something was wrong. She held the handkerchief in her hand nervously, fearing that something had happened to Su Han in the regional prince's mansion again. Mother-in-law, why are you so suspicious of me? Did you listen to someone's instigation? Chu Xiaoshan's suspicious gaze landed on Su Yingxue. In front of everyone, Su Yingxue ignored his gaze. The tea in Chu Yihan's hand suddenly fell in front of Chu Xiaotian, splashing into his eyes. Chu Xiaotian cried out as he knelt on the ground and covered his eyes. Everyone looked at Chu Yihan strangely. Chu Yihan wiped his hands, his handsome face indifferent. My hand slipped. Your Highness' hand was slippery, but it was quite accurate. The adult's attention was all on Chu Xiaotian. Only Su Miaoyan was eating her snacks at the side, her eyes constantly darting between Chu Yihan and Su Yingxue. She covered her mouth and giggled, thinking, if only my future husband loved Sister Xue as much as 9th Prince. When she looked at Chu Xiaotian, she stuck out her tongue behind his back. Yes. Who asked him to glare at Sister Xue? Yingxue, why aren't you helping your Highness deal with it? Su Qingji glanced at Su Yingxue. In the end, he still had to take care of his face. Su Yingxue asked the servants to fetch some water and a handkerchief for Chu Xiaotian. Chu Xiaoshan's heart was filled with hatred. Chu Yihan. Su Yingxue. This pair of batches. Your Highness, even if sister is sick and can't come, the maid by sister's side is not sick, right? Chapter 571. Eyes full of love, Su Yingxue looked at Jinxuan. And, I remember that the maid Jifin, who I brought back to the regional prince's mansion, is a servant from your Marquis Manor. She is loyal and quick-witted. Shouldn't it be fine to ask her to come to the Marquis Manor and tell everyone about sister's illness? Jinxuan's eyes held admiration. Yes, Jifin was originally my maidservant. I gave her to Heiner. She's a smart maid. If Heiner can't get out of bed, let her report it. We can also be at ease with Heiner's illness. She gave her husband a meaningful look. Father, please allow this, Su Dingwei said, cupping his hands and addressing Su Qingji. This matter is not difficult. It's just a maid. I think your Highness would not object. I also want to know about Heiner's illness, Su Qingji said, looking at Chu Xiaotian with what seemed like a calm gaze but hid an extremely strong pressure. He had already said so much. If Chu Xiaotian continued to refuse, then he would have a reason to bring his men to the regional prince's mansion. Chu Xiaotian looked at Su Yingxue hatefully and spat at her. Mind your own business. Grandfather, Heiner's servant has to take care of her, so I'm afraid she can't leave. If grandfather wants to ask, I'll call the others in Heiner's courtyard to answer, Chu Xiaotian said coldly. You are using this as an excuse. If Heiner is to rest in bed, don't you have someone to take care of her in your grand regional prince's mansion? Or is your Highness hiding something? Jinxuan was very worried. Su Dingwei held Jinxuan's hand, his expression dark. Your Highness doesn't even dare to let a maid come out. I did not. Chu Xiaotian kept denying it. Then bring that maid here and let her tell me and everyone in the Marquis Manor how Heiner is doing in the regional prince's mansion. Su Qingzi's voice was heavy. Chu Xiaotian would never let that maid come. If she told him about Su Han's situation, he would lose face in front of the Su family. Chu Xiaotian just stood there and did not say anything. He could only brace himself. Su Yingxue clenched her right fist. She was even more worried about Su Han. Ziwei had gone to the regional prince's mansion and hadn't come back yet. Seeing Su Yingxue like this, Yihan furrowed his brows and said calmly, "Mo Qi, go to the regional prince's mansion and bring the maid called Jifan here. I want to see her." Mo Qi stepped forward. "I accept your orders." "Wait." Chu Xiaotian stopped Mo Qi and stared at Yihan with wide eyes. "What does Imperial Uncle mean by this? Do you think my regional prince's mansion is a slave market where you can choose as you please?" Everyone in the Su family did not speak. When Su Miaoyan wanted to speak, Madame Yin covered her mouth and shook her head. Su Miaoyan pouted, thinking, all right. The 9th prince feels sorry for Sister Shui. She won't tell the truth. Yihan was holding the tea that Su Yingxue had brewed for him. He looked calm, but the moment he opened his mouth, it was filled with endless pressure. Yes, so what? Chu Xiaoshan's heart skipped a beat. 3 words. Yihan had used these words to make him unable to speak. He, Yihan, was as noble as a god. So what if he treated the regional prince's mansion as a slave market? Mo Qi. Yihan called out softly. Mo Qi immediately pushed Chu Xiaotian away and went to do his work. Su Yingxue looked at Yihan with eyes full of love. He was young, but his status was akin to that of his grandfather. They were both individuals accustomed to conflict and battle, yet he possessed a natural noble aura that inspired admiration and longing in others. The way he had instructed Mo Qi to go out earlier had touched her. Chapter 572. All of a sudden, I feel like I've eaten a lot. Whatever she wanted to do, he would make it happen. This man's indulgence. Yingxue. Su Qingji called her, and Su Yingxue immediately perked up. She was shocked, realizing, oh no, did Grandpa see me gazing at Yihan just now? I wonder how much he noticed. She quickly walked to Su Qingji's side. Su Qingji instructed her to bring some refreshments for everyone who was waiting. Su Yingxue went downstairs to prepare the pastries. When the pastries were served, the others were served by the maids. Only Su Qingji and Chu Yihan's pastries were served by Su Yingxue herself. Su Yingxue was serious and cautious in front of Su Qingji. When she turned around to Chu Yihan, she made a face at him. Chu Yihan smiled. When she put down the plate of pastries, he deliberately put down the teacup. Their hands met in the air. Chu Yihan touched her soft fingers and gently squeezed them. Ouch! Su Yingxue let out a low exclamation. This man's hands were really hot. Had he been holding the teacup for too long? Chu Yihan placed his hand on his chest and gestured that his heart was also burning. Su Yingxue's ears turned red. Could he stop teasing her like this? She had to maintain the image of the Marquis Manor's legitimate daughter in front of everyone. It was so difficult. Su Yingxue decided to take a walk outside for some fresh air and to see if Ziwei had returned. Half an hour passed, but Ziwei still hadn't returned. Instead, Saint Juan sauntered out of the medicine hut. He held a bunch of grapes in his hand, raising them high and biting into them one by one. Even though he was just eating fruit, he managed to exude a sense of allure. Su Yingxue rolled her eyes at him. Saint Juan strolled over to her and, right in front of her, put a grape in his mouth, intentionally biting it open. The purple juice slid down his throat, seductive and enticing. If other women saw this, they would feel embarrassed and cover their faces. But Su Yingxue remained calm. You're done preparing the medicine and now you're flirting. Can't I take a break? I work at your clinic, and when I don't have money, one don't get to rest. Saint Juan rolled his eyes at Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue wasn't in the mood to banter with him anymore. Seeing her frown, Saint Juan chuckled. Don't worry. Your assassin is already on the move. Killing everyone in the regional prince's mansion won't be a problem. Your sister won't die. How did you know I sent Ziwei out? I saw it. Besides poisoning, I have some other skills, you know. Saint Juan maintained his flirtatious pose and ate another grape. Su Yingxue had forgotten that despite his old age, Saint Juan had excellent martial arts skills, so it wasn't surprising that he saw Ziwei leave. But she was still worried. If Ziwei doesn't return soon, my cousin might be in trouble. But since he hasn't returned yet, I'm afraid my cousin might be in danger. Then prepare for your cousin's funeral, and while you're at it, prepare to kill this whatever regional prince in the Marquis manor. After all, with Yihan here, no one will dare to criticize you even if you kill him, Saint Juan said with a bitter smile. Su Yingxue was just joking around with him when Mochi arrived. He was carrying someone in his arms and flew straight into the Marquis manor. Su Yingxue quickly approached and saw that it was Yihan in his arms. Yifan's eyes were filled with tears. Miss Yingxue, please save our miss. What's wrong with my sister? Su Yingxue's eyes showed a hint of urgency. Miss Su, I'll leave her to you. After Mochi put Yihan down, he quickly walked over to Yihan's side and responded to him. Yihan nodded, and Mochi left again. Chapter 573, Angry. The actions of the master and servant pair instantly made Su Yingxue's heart tense up. She noticed that Yihan was injured, so she gave her a heart protection pill and led her to the hole. Grandpa, Yihan is here, Su Yingxue said. She instructed Jilan to bring a chair for Yihan. However, Yihan pushed the chair away and knelt on the ground. She crawled in front of Su Qingji, grabbing his clothes and crying out, Old General, you're finally back. Please save the miss quickly, she's about to die in the regional prince's mansion. What's wrong with Heartless? Su Qingji frowned deeply. Su Dingwei and his wife were the first to get angry. Su Dingwei angrily pointed at Chu Xiaotian. What did you do to Heartless? I'm not done with you. What exactly did my Heartless suffer in your regional prince's mansion? Qin Wan also collapsed and lost her rationality. She had endured it for too long with Su Han. Grandpa, don't believe this young girl's nonsense. She has only been in the regional prince's mansion for a few days, and now she is spouting nonsense. Chu Xiaotian hurriedly stared at Yihan and retorted. Su Qingji growled, Don't call me grandpa. He looked at Yihan, recognizing her as one of the servants in the Marquis manor. He lovingly comforted her, Don't be afraid, child. I'm here, you can speak properly. How is Heartless now? How can I save her? Tears welled up in Yifan's eyes as she desperately kowtowed to Su Qingji. Please send someone to the regional prince's mansion, Old General. They want to kill the miss. What? Qin Wan was so frightened by these words that she fainted on the spot. Madam. Su Dingwei rushed to support Qin Wan. Su Yingxue quickly took out a silver needle and applied it between Qin Wan's eyebrows. She looked at Su Qingji. Grandpa, the most urgent matter is to quickly send someone to save sister. Su Qingji waved his hand. Su Wei. Su Wei. Charge into the regional prince's mansion and bring Heartless back. It was an emergency, and his granddaughter's life was at stake. He couldn't care less about formalities. Old General, there's no need to be anxious. While everyone was panicking, Chu Yihan's calm voice reassured them, My secret guards have been deployed. Su Han's life is safe. This, Su Dingwei bowed to Chu Yihan. Your Highness, I am extremely grateful for your kindness. Chu Yihan nodded lightly. Yes. Thank you, Your Highness. Su Qingji also nodded slightly at Chu Yihan. He instructed Su Wei to leave. In terms of status, Chu Yihan was more suitable than them to intervene. However, he couldn't help but feel more puzzled. Why was Chu Yihan so concerned about Su Han and even generously offered help? But Su Qingji didn't dwell on Chu Yihan anymore. The immediate priority was to figure out what had happened and save her. He allowed Jifin to catch her breath and slowly asked, "Don't be afraid. I'm here with everyone from the Su family. Tell me everything that happened to Heiner in the regional prince's mansion in detail." "Yes, sir." Xifin's eyes were filled with sorrow. Chu Xiaoshen's face turned pale. He stopped Jifin from speaking and angrily said, "Old General Su, what do you mean by this? Heiner is my wife. You don't believe my words but want to believe this lowly maid. Is this the rule of the Marquis of Marshall South's manor? This is my Marquard's manor, and it's not your place to discipline my maid." Su Qingzi's anger erupted, revealing the bloodthirsty aura of battle and slaughter. Chu Xiaotian was forced back several steps. Seeing this, Su Yingxue pressed Chu Xiaotian down on the chair and gave him an injection. Chapter 574, Su Han was being hunted. Chu Xiaotian felt his entire body go numb and couldn't move. Gritting his teeth, he glared at Su Yingxue. "Su Yingxue, what have you done to me?" Your Highness, just listen for now. When Grandpa asks questions, then you can speak." Su Yingxue's beautiful face was icy, her tone authoritative, leaving no room for argument. Chu Xiaotian attempted to speak again, but Su Yingxue promptly administered a throat-sealing needle, rendering him unable to shout. Outside, Saint Juan watched with amusement, munching on grapes. Seeing Su Yingxue decisively handle Chu Xiaotian, he remarked, "Truly worthy of being Chu Yihan's woman, ruthless enough." The couple was quite ruthless. Whoever provoked them would meet their demise. He could already envision Chu Xiaoshen's death date. It was close. Recalling Su Han's ordeal, Jifin couldn't help but cry. Today, Miss had prepared a letter of divorce to bring back to the Marquis manor, hoping the old general would make a decision. However, instead of Your Highness coming to fetch Miss, it was Min Jia County Lord and Madame Sheng. They beat Miss and found the letter, accusing her of delusions and condemning her to die in the regional prince's manor. 1 inch a letter of divorce. Su Qingji frowned. Knowing Su Han's temperament, he understood she was a prudent and considerate child. She wouldn't ask him to decide unless pushed to extremes, indicating she had suffered greatly in the regional prince's mansion. Madame Sheng and Min Jia County Lord beat me and Miss then took her to the courtyard. If not for a man in black who saved her, Miss would have died. A man in black. Heiner was kidnapped. Su Qingji pondered deeply. Jifin nodded. Yes, after saving Miss, the man took her away. Madame Sheng and Min Jia County Lord cursed and sent people after them. They didn't care about me until young Master Mo Qi arrived and saved me. Su Qingji immediately turned to Chu Yihan. Your Highness, did you send someone to pursue the kidnappers? Chu Yihan nodded. The one who rescued Su Han is being pursued. I dispatched Mo Qi and his guards to rescue them. Mo Qi returned, confirming the assassins were from the regional prince's mansion. Chu Xiaotian desperately tried to speak but couldn't. However, he kept his eyes wide open in protest. Impossible. The regional prince's mansion wouldn't harm Heiner. She was his princess, so how could they kill her? Su Qingji, angrier than ever, drew his sword, pressing it against Chu Xiaoshen's neck. You better hope Heiner is safe, or he'll take your life. Even as the regional prince, my blade can still reach your head. Chu Xiaotian trembled uncontrollably. Su Qingji, seasoned from decades on the battlefield, was formidable. "Grandpa, may I go save sister? She's in danger." "With your Highness men, Yingxue was frantic. "No need. Your Highness' secret guards are unparalleled. With them, you needn't go," Su Qingji said, angry yet composed. Yihan reassured Su Yingxue with a glance. With his men, Su Han would be safe. Chapter 575. Weiss protection. Su Yingxue was momentarily pacified. She looked at Jifan and recalled Su Yilan's intention to reconcile, saying, "Grandpa, since my sister has decided to divorce, let Jifan tell everyone about what happened to my sister in the regional prince's mansion so that everyone can understand and avoid tarnishing her reputation." Jifan gratefully kowtowed to Su Yingxue. One thanked Miss Yingxue. Su Yingxue helped her up and encouraged her to continue recounting Su Yilan's experiences in the regional prince's mansion. Jifan wiped away her tears and tried to keep her voice clear. After Miss returned to the regional prince's mansion following the surgery, she has been subjected to constant torment. Your Highness tortured her, and Madame Sheng and Min Jia County Lord were even. Xifan's torrent of words made Chu Xiaotian feel as if he had been skinned alive. He hung his head in guilt. Despite holding the title of regional princess, she was made to do menial tasks like a servant. She barely had 3 hours of rest each day, doing laundry, cleaning, tending to the garden, and even kitchen chores. With injuries on her body, she was exhausted daily. Were it not for Miss Yingxue's healing medicine, she would have succumbed to infection and fever in the mansion long ago. Despite this, Min Jia County Lord and Madame Xing continued to torment her. They would come to bully and beat her, leaving her skin marred. Xifan's words hit the hall like a thunderbolt. Su Qingzi's eyes turned red with anger. Unbelievable. The daughter of the Su family was subjected to such humiliation by her husband's family. Su Dingwei wanted to kill Chu Xiaotian on the spot, but his servants restrained him. Su Yingxue's face darkened, with half of it obscured in shadow, making her expression unreadable but exuding a frightening malice. Approaching Chu Xiaotian, she removed the needle from his throat. Chu Xiaotian let out a long sigh of relief but looked at Su Yingxue with fear in his eyes. "Su Yingxue, what are you planning? How dare you lay hands on me?" Before he could finish his threat, Su Yingxue sealed his meridians and forced poison into his mouth. It was a recent concoction by Saint Juan. Non-lethal, but causing excruciating pain as every meridian in his body broke, akin to being crushed. However, he wouldn't die. Before long, Chu Xiaotian collapsed, coughing up blood, his face reddening as if his eyes were about to bulge out, presenting a horrifying sight. Su Xinlan covered her mouth in shock. "Su Yingxue, you've killed someone. He's the regional prince. The imperial family's bloodline." Su Yingxue's eyes held an unyielding coldness. "He won't die, but he will suffer immensely. Hell taste all the pain my sister endured." At the entrance of an alley outside the regional prince's mansion, 3 groups confronted each other. "Step aside." Ziwei dragged the unconscious Su Han and coldly ordered the 2 groups in front. "Release Miss Su Han. I'm here on Miss Su and your Highness orders to take her back to the Marquis mansion." Mo Qi declared his intentions to Ziwei. Knowing Ziwei's formidable martial prowess and lethal nature, snatching Su Han from him was futile. Yet, Su Han must be brought back. Ziwei only obeyed Su Yingxue's commands, showing indifference with a hint of killing intent. "Step aside." Su Jinxian, concealed under a black veil, lurked in the shadows, observing Min Jia's men battling Mo Qi and awaiting the opportune moment. With the need to fend off both Mo Qi and another group of assailants targeting Su Han, Ziwei found it increasingly challenging. He positioned Su Han behind him and unleashed a fierce sword strike, forcing everyone to step back. Chapter 576, Saved Back. Mo Chi was the first to come to his senses. Though he knew he and Yingxue had the same goal, they each had their agenda, and getting Su Man was still his priority. However, he dispatched the shadow guards to deal with the other group first, opting to pursue Yingxue alone. As they neared the Marquis Manor, Mo Chi shouted at Yingxue, "Hey, barging into the general manor like this will tarnish the reputations of the two misses." Yingxue, unfamiliar with the importance of a woman's reputation, solely focused on retrieving Su Han and disregarded Mo Chi. Mo Chi pursued him, earnestly trying to persuade him. "Hand her over to me, or Miss Han's reputation will suffer, and Miss Su will be implicated as well. Leave." Yingxue ignored him entirely. Disliking trouble, he deposited Su Han in a narrow alley and engaged Mo Chi in combat. Mo Chi, not one to refrain from retaliation, fought back. The two experts clashed vigorously, stirring up clouds of dust. Initially intending to reason with Yingxue, Mo Chi realized his stubbornness and continued fighting. However, upon seeing a dark figure descend behind Yingxue, Mo Chi exclaimed, "Miss Han." Both Mo Chi and Yingxue halted their attacks and rushed towards Su Han. Su Jinxuan's sword was swift and ruthless, aiming for Su Han's heart. Splurt. Su Jinxuan's eyes widened in horror. Damn it! He withdrew his sword, but the opportunity to strike Su Han again had passed. Mo Chi charged towards him. Unable to avoid exposure, Su Jinxuan retreated. With two injured individuals by his side, Mo Chi reluctantly abandoned the pursuit of the black-clad assailant. Glancing at Yingxue, who had shielded Su Han from Su Jinxuan's blow and was now bleeding profusely, Mo Chi attempted to aid him but was rebuffed. Instead, he lifted the unconscious Su Han and prepared to depart. However, Mo Chi restrained him. "You should prioritize tending to your injuries first. The Marquis Manor is nearby. It'll bring Miss Han back immediately." "No." Yingxue stubbornly assisted Su Han and escorted her back to the Marquis Manor to meet Su Yingxue. Both were stained with blood. Su Yingxue's countenance darkened upon seeing them. She cried out, "Saint Juan! Saint Juan! Hey, I'm here!" After finishing his grapes, Saint Juan promptly arrived by Su Yingxue's side. She carried Su Han into the medicine hut and directed him to assist Yingxue. Saint Juan extended his hands. "Come on, little assassin, let me help you." Yingxue stepped back indifferently, casting a glance at Su Yingxue before departing. Saint Juan interjected with both hands. "Hey! How ungrateful! With such severe injuries, where do you think you're going? Let him be. He only listens to Miss Su." Mo Chi sneered. He couldn't tolerate such single-mindedness. Had he handed Su Han over, there would have been no need for confrontation. He wouldn't have been injured. Yet here he was, refusing proper treatment even after sustaining injuries. He deserved to be a lifelong pawn, serving others as an assassin. Seeing Su Han covered in wounds, Su Yingxue had no choice but to prioritize her treatment. After applying the medicine, she seized Saint Juan and inquired, "How is Yingxue?" Initially inclined to refuse, Saint Juan relented upon seeing Su Yingxue's busy state and refrained from causing her further distress. "You focus on treating your sister first. I'll handle the rest." After all, the little assassin's injury was trivial to him. He could manage it easily, sparing Su Yingxue any distractions. Su Yingxue heaved a sigh of relief. After making sure that Su Han was not in any life-threatening danger, she went to the front hall to report to her grandfather. Chapter 577. Yihan helped her again. As soon as she entered the front hall, she viciously kicked Chu Xiaotian several times, causing him to cough up blood. Yingxue, stop causing trouble, Su Qingji reprimanded her, prompting her to release Chu Xiaotian. The poison in Chu Xiaoshan's body had mostly dissipated by now, and he lacked the strength to stand up. However, he glared fiercely at Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue, you dare to insult me. One won't let you off. Say that again. Chu Yihan's voice was icy and authoritative. Chu Xiaoshan's face paled as he lowered his head. Su Qingji, with concern in his eyes, asked about Heiner's condition. Grandfather, sister's life is no longer in danger, but she's badly injured, Su Yingxue replied, casting a regretful glance at Su Dingwei and Qin Wan. The wounds from her surgery are festering badly. If she had remained in the regional prince's mansion today, it would have been difficult for her to recover. Qin Wan cried out in anguish, my poor child, Heiner. Despite her noble background and dignified demeanor, she couldn't help but approach Chu Xiaotian and slap him hard. What right do you have to be Heiner's husband? You're not worthy. Chu Xiaotian was taken aback. Su Yingxue had Chu Yihan's support, so it was one thing for her to hit him, but now even Qin Wan was hitting him. He attempted to retaliate against Qin Wan, asserting, how am one unworthy? It's Su Han's fault. Before he could act, Su Dingwei delivered a powerful punch, his expression fierce. Even if 1 a.m. to be reprimanded by the emperor, I will avenge Heiner today. He then engaged in a physical altercation with Chu Xiaotian. Su Qingji observed quietly from the side, later asking Su Yingxue, is this the first time your uncle and the regional prince have come to blows? Su Yingxue shook her head. No, the last time I operated on my sister, uncle almost got caught by them and subjected to corporal punishment. Fortunately, 9th Prince arrived in time and saved him. She took the opportunity to glance at Chu Yihan. Chu Yihan returned her gaze with a tender look. Su Qingji nodded. 9th Prince has been a great help to you and the Marquis Manor. Su Yingxue agreed with a nod. Meanwhile, in the courtyard, Su Dingwei and Chu Xiaotian had been fighting for a while. Su Qingji did not intervene, understanding the need for Su Dingwei to vent his anger. If it were his daughter's suffering, as a father, he wouldn't stand by either. But after a while, Jilan whispered to Su Yingxue, Miss Han has awakened. She says there's something important she needs to say in front of everyone. Su Yingxue nodded. Go and bring sister here. Su Yingxue helped Su Qingji back to the front hall. Taking advantage of Su Qingzi's momentary distraction, she quietly tugged at the corner of Chu Yihan's sleeve. Your Highness, did I keep you waiting? Knowing Chu Yihan's reserved nature and lack of interest in spectacle, she wondered if her actions had inconvenienced him. After all, he had come to the Marquis Manor and assisted without making any demands. Chu Yihan looked at her with warmth amidst the frosty expressions of others. No, I only wanted to see you. That day, amidst the commotion in the Marquis Manor, Chu Yihan's sole concern was Su Yingxue. As Su Dingwei and Chu Xiaotian battled fiercely, Su Yihan was brought out. She looked at the two men in the courtyard coldly and said, Stop. Though her voice was soft, it was enough to halt the fighting. Heiner. Heiner. Chu Xiaoshan's voice was urgent, while Su Dingwei's was full of concern. Both men stopped and hurried to Su Han's side, equally surprised. Chapter 578. Please stay, 9th Prince. Su Dingwei hadn't even gotten the chance to inquire when Chu Xiaotian was the first to express surprise. Mo, did you sustain such serious injuries? Who did this to you? Su Dingwei pushed Chu Xiaotian away. Heiner was rescued from your regional prince's mansion, and yet you have the nerve to ask such a question. Previously, he had felt that although Chu Xiaotian tended to be unfair, favoring his mother and sister, he was at least an upright person. Now, seeing Chu Xiaoshan's face, he felt thoroughly disgusted. He didn't know how to convey his anguish. He reached out, his palm comforting as it covered Su Han's hand. Heiner, rest assured, father will stand up for you. You won't suffer any more injustice. As he withdrew his hand, he accidentally brushed against Su Han's fingers. Su Han bit her lip, her face showing pain. Jinxuan stood by Su Han's side, wiping her tears, her voice choked with emotion as she reminded Su Dingwei, "Husband, be gentle." Heiner's fingers were crushed, even the gaps are filled with blood. What? Su Dingwei's heart trembled fiercely. He wished he could turn around and throttle Chu Xiaotian. Su Han spoke lightly, "Father, don't be angry. Today, Heiner has something to tell everyone." "All right, father will personally assist you inside." Su Dingwei put away the sword and handed it to a servant. Originally, Su Han was seated on a heavily padded armchair, requiring 2 people to carry her. However, when Su Dingwei approached, he lifted the chair with his powerful arms, raising Su Han. Standing behind Su Han, his deep voice resonated with a strong protective instinct. "Heiner, as long as father is here, you have nothing to fear." Jinxuan stood beside Su Han, accompanying her into the hall. In the hall, Su Qingji and Chu Yihan sat on the dais. Su Han bowed slightly. "Due to Heiner's severe injuries, I am unable to bow to grandfather and 9th prince. Please forgive me." "No, grandfather won't blame you." Su Qingzi's eyes overflowed with compassion as he witnessed Su Han's condition. In front of his granddaughter, he wasn't the defender great general, but simply her grandfather. Chu Yihan also spoke indifferently, "It's all right." But after speaking, he stood up and nodded to Su Qingji. "As this is a matter concerning old General Su's family, it's inappropriate for me to remain. 111 Take my leave." He believed Su Yingxue would handle things competently and had also considered her feelings. "Your Highness, I'm grateful for your assistance." Su Qingji rose and bowed. Without Chu Yihan's intervention, Su Han wouldn't have returned to the Marquis Manor so easily. Su Yingxue paid no heed to this. Yet, she knew Chu Yihan had her best interests at heart. She approached him and made a slight curtsy. "Thank you, Your Highness." Chu Yihan helped her up and whispered in a voice only they could hear, "Never thank me." Everything he did for her was only natural. "Though it's a family matter, Your Highness is still a senior member of the imperial family. Your Highness, please stay and bear witness." Unexpectedly, Su Han made this request. "Heiner, what are you planning to say?" Jinxuan was somewhat concerned. While the Su family could handle their affairs privately, involving Chu Yihan as a witness would escalate the matter. "Oh. Our Su family's eldest young miss is quite grand. To think, she could even make such an esteemed person like the 9th prince stay behind over a family matter. Once this spreads, what will people say? Our Su family's miss, how much face does she have?" Su Xinlan remarked in a sarcastic tone. Chapter 579, Witty remarks she just couldn't bear to see the people from the Su family do well. Su Han deserved to be injured like this. Su Yingxue glared fiercely at Su Xinlan. "And, it seems like you've forgotten what I told you before we entered the house." She felt that her days in Changxin Marquis Manor were too comfortable. She wanted to seek trouble. Su Xinlan snorted coldly. She didn't argue with Su Yingxue, but she was happy that she had stabbed Su Han. "Sister Xue, don't be angry. Auntie is also a daughter of the Su family. She's just mean, so she can't stand seeing other girls have more faces than her." Su Miaoyan said crisply. After saying this, she covered her mouth in surprise. Meow Meow forgot. Auntie is already so old. She's not a girl, nor is she a legitimate daughter of the Su family. You little girl, I think you need to be taught a lesson. Su Xinlan's face turned pale. It was fine if Su Yingxue and Su Han had their backers, but her third brother's little young girl dared to tease her like this. Ouch, Auntie hit someone. Grandpa, save me. Meow Meow is scared. Su Miaoyan leaned into Su Qingzi's arms. Su Xinlan did not dare to hit Su Qingzi when he was hugging her. She chased after Su Qingzi and was yelled at by him. What are you doing? You want to hit me? Su Qingzi's eyes widened, and Su Xinlan's soul almost flew away. She quickly knelt. I don't dare, but this young girl. How hateful. What hate? She's my granddaughter. She's smart and quick-witted. How is she hateful? If you want to hate yourself, it's because you're useless. Su Qingzi taught Su Xinlan a harsh lesson, causing her already small face to become even more disgraceful. She glared at Su Miaoyan fiercely. Su Miaoyan had a piece of cake in his hand and stuck out her tongue at Su Xinlan. Who asked you to bully my sister? Humph. Meow Meow, come here. Madame Yin waved at Su Miaoyan and pulled her to her side. Madame Yin had always been a reserved person. She would never speak up and get involved in things that were not necessary. She had always been cautious in managing the household. She was surprised. You never said a word at home. Why are you so talkative today? She didn't even care about offending someone. Why did she provoke Su Xinlan so easily? It's so boring at home. How could the brothers be more fun than the Marquis Manor? There's Sister Xue and the Marquis Manor. Su Miaoyan winked at Su Yingxue with her gem-like eyes and received a smile in response. Su Yingxue went out and brought Chu Xiaotian in. She looked at Chu Yihan sincerely. Ninth Prince, sister have a request. You won't reject it, right? Chu Yihan had already stood up. He never changed his mind when he made a decision. However, the moment Su Yingxue said this, he sat back down. This matter concerns the imperial family. I will uphold justice. Your Highness is so good. Su Yingxue could not help but laugh. Su Han bowed again. Thank you, Your Highness. You are wise. Heiner, what are you trying to do? I said that I wanted to divorce you, but I was just angry. I want to separate from you. Of course, don't even think about separating. Chu Xiaotian held on to his final determination. When he saw Su Han covered in wounds, his heart sank. He knew that Min Jia and his mother must have bullied Su Han again when he wasn't around. They had gone too far this time. However, he would still persuade Su Han to go back with him. Chapter 580, Heartless and Unfaithful, Why Can't I? Su Yingxue pushed Chu Xiaotian away from Su Han. Can't you see how the regional prince's mansion treats my sister? Does your highness want Heiner to die in the regional prince's mansion, and only then will you let her go, carrying her corpse out? Qin Wan looked at Chu Xiaotian with hatred. She deeply regretted marrying Su Han into the regional prince's mansion. No. Even if Heiner dies, she's still my wife, the princess of the regional prince's mansion. Chu Xiaoshan's eyes were terrifyingly dense. His handsome face was stained with blood, carrying a sinister aura. Don't even think about it. Su Dingwei pushed him further away. Su Han sat on the chair with clear eyes. She appeared weak but spoke firmly, I want to sever all ties with Chu Xiaotian. Estrangement. Estrangement. Everyone was amazed, and even Chu Yihan's eyes flashed with surprise. Su Han, a weak woman, wanted to sever all ties with Chu Xiaotian. Estrangement was a method of forcibly dissolving the relationship between husband and wife if one party committed acts such as murder or assault, and a complaint was filed with the government. Chu Xiaotian widened his eyes in disbelief. What did you say? Estrangement. Su Han. Who gave you the courage to sever all ties with me? Su Qingzi's face was solemn. He knew Su Han's experience in the regional prince's mansion must be unusual, but he still tried to persuade her. Heiner, have you thought this through? Su Han's thin body stood straight, her cold and elegant face showing determination. I have. Grandpa, Mom, and Dad, please bear witness for me and ask me to write a complaint to submit to the capital prefecture. Su Qingji frowned and thought. Qin Wan and Su Dingwei were also surprised. They didn't expect Su Han to be so resolute. Only Su Yingxue heard this. She immediately went out and prepared a brush, ink, paper, and inkstone. She brought them to Su Han and said softly, Sister, I'll hold it for you. You can write. Su Han's eyes were filled with gratitude. Thank you, sister. Both of Su Han's hands were injured. Su Yingxue initially planned to transcribe for her, but she knew Su Han would insist on writing herself. This was Su Han's pride and the pride of the Su family. Despite her injuries, Su Han persisted and wrote 2 complete complaints. Her handwriting was elegant and graceful. After Su Han finished writing, Su Yingxue handed a copy to Su Qingji. After Su Qingji read it, his face turned pale, and he handed the complaint to Chu Yihan. Chu Yihan's handsome face was expressionless, but his eyes betrayed emotion. He called Mo Qi over. Immediately summon Liang Jin to the Marquis Manor. Mo Qi accepted the order and left. Chu Xiaotian panicked and immediately got up. He rushed toward Su Yingxue's hands, wanting to snatch the other complaint. I want to see what she wrote. Su Yingxue wouldn't let him ruin Su Han's hard work, so she turned around and dodged him. She held the complaint with both hands and unfolded it in front of Chu Xiaotian. This way, you can see clearly what kind of den the regional prince's mansion is. How could they torture Su Han? The complaint was very long, and Su Han listed many things, from the moment she married into the regional prince's mansion, when Min Jia and his mother snatched her dowry and jewelry, to the bullying they had done to her in recent years, to the recent incident. Min Jia framed her and tried to kill her. Chapter 581, This justice must be sought. Chu Xiaoshan's face flushed red as he shook his head. Impossible. This can't be happening. Min Jia wouldn't do such a thing. He rushed to Su Han and locked eyes with her. Heiner, you must be misunderstanding. Before I left, Min Jia went to see you, saying you weren't feeling well. She had already called for a court physician. How could she want to kill you? Even if mother doesn't like you, father would still stand up for you. You're his most admired daughter-in-law. How could you accuse them like this? Su Han hated seeing him the most, but now she had to face him. She stared at the man she once loved deeply and spoke coldly. Do you still think I'm falsely accusing your mother and sister? Even if it's not entirely true. As the daughter-in-law and the elder sister-in-law, can't you tolerate them a little? As long as you do what you did before, give some gifts to Min Jia to appease her, then kneel and apologize to mother, they will forgive you. You're still the princess of the regional prince's mansion. Why do you have to go this far? Chu Xiaotian yelled at her, every word a reproach. Su Han's heart had long grown cold, as if a gaping hole had been torn open, letting out a chilling breeze. Fortunately, she had already died once when someone held a knife to her. She had been saved, knowing how precious her life was. She wouldn't let Chu Xiaotian hurt her again. Instead, she questioned him forcefully. Why can't one? When one married into your palace, the betrothal gift one received was only half of my dowry. These past few years, I've been managing the entire regional prince's mansion. If it weren't for my dowry, how could the people of the regional prince's mansion live such a dignified life? Your mother and sister snatched my things, but you never stood up for me. Instead, you made me tolerate everything. It's not that one couldn't tolerate it, but how did you treat me? You said you would never take concubines, never favor other women, even if I never had a child, you would never betray me, but did you keep your promise? Su Han's question was like a bucket of cold water poured over Chu Xiaoshan's head. His face showed discomfort. One kept it, I kept it all these years, except for that one night. He had stayed clean for these past few years. Even when socializing, he never indulged with those women. This was his promise to Su Han, and he kept it. He had only broken it once, just that one night. He grabbed the chair's armrest, his eyes red, and questioned Su Han. Only once. I've only been with another woman once. Why do you insist on holding on to it? In the entire Great Qing dynasty, which man would remain loyal to only one woman? Not to mention, among the imperial family and nobles, who is like me, focusing solely on loving you. Why won't you even give me one chance? If you're disloyal once, you won't be loyal 100 times. Su Han's face turned cold. You and one made promises. We're a loving couple. You and I break promises, and we have to settle our debts one by one. The dowry I paid into the regional prince's mansion, and the plot against me by Min Jia County Lord, and Madam Xing, I must seek justice. A trace of surprise flashed across Su Yingxue's eyes, her heart surging with emotions. At this moment, she admired Su Han. Liang Jin rushed over as quickly as possible, bringing many people from the capital prefecture with him. He had visited the Marquis Manor more times than he had visited all the officials' homes combined. Therefore, he was quite familiar with the place. Chapter 582, Record in and however, it was the first time he had seen Su Qingji in the Marquis Manor. When Su Qingji was conquering the four corners of the world, he was still a scholar rushing to the capital to take the imperial examination. The person he admired the most was the valiant and exceptional great general who had expanded the Great Qing dynasty's territories. When he encountered Su Qingji, he greeted him with deep respect. 1 a.m. Liang Jin from the capital prefecture. 1 Pay my respects to old General Su. Your name has been famous for many years, and it is truly an honor for me to meet you today. Su Qingji, not as formal as a literati, stroked his beard and said, Lord Liang, please rise. Today, 1 a.m. Sorry for intruding upon you. This is my duty, old general. Liang Jin's tone revealed his impartiality. Although he held Su Qingji in high regard, this was a matter of professional duty for him. He had no personal feelings when handling cases. With Su Han's complaint in hand, he had already pieced together the details of the case on his way here. In essence, it was a family dispute within the regional prince's mansion. However, upon receiving the complaint, it escalated into a severe case involving loss of life within both the regional prince's mansion and the Marquis Manor. Miss Su Han, you wish to press charges against Prince Yangon and the regional prince's mansion. With your complaint in hand, I now need to gather evidence. I have brought a female officer with me. Are you willing to allow her to examine your injuries to ascertain their authenticity? Liang Jin inquired. Qin Wan expressed some concern. Lord Liang, is it necessary to proceed in this manner? This case. Can it not be kept private? While examining the injuries was one matter, what Liang Jin recorded would need to be made public. Su Han was a young woman. How could she face society if everyone knew the extent of her injuries and scars? Liang Jin felt a pang of regret but firmly informed Jinxuan, Madam Su, every detail of the case must be documented and publicly disclosed. Severing ties with the Prince of Yangon is a serious matter. This is the first such case of disownment by the prince's mansion in nearly 50 years, and one must proceed with utmost caution. Jinxuan's heart sank. She grasped Su Han's hand, tears welling in her eyes, and pleaded, "Heiner, let's reconsider. Let's part ways. The Su family has no shortage of dowries, but your reputation cannot be disregarded." In this world, how difficult was it for a woman to survive with a tarnished reputation? How many women had lost not only their reputations but also their lives? Su Han firmly held Jinxuan's hand, her gaze unwavering. "Mother, I must sever ties." She looked up at Liang Jin and continued, "Lord Liang, Su Han is willing to cooperate with your female officer for the examination of my injuries. However, my injuries are severe, and it may take some time. Additionally, my sister Yingxue has performed surgery on me before and is familiar with my condition. I hope you will document this in detail to aid in resolving the case." A flicker of surprise crossed Liang Jin's eyes but quickly vanished. He granted permission and instructed the 2 female officers he had brought along, "You are to assist Miss Su Han in examining her injuries. Handle her with care and detail your findings thoroughly. Do you understand?" The 2 female officers nodded in agreement. Su Yingxue accompanied them. As Su Han's physician, she was well acquainted with Su Han's injuries. However, she could not provide oral testimony. Thus, Su Han proceeded to remove her clothing and reveal her wounds, determined to seek justice for herself. As Su Han and Su Yingxue departed, Jinxuan clasped her chest and collapsed into her chair, tears streaming down her face. Su Dingwei consoled her, and the couple held each other's hands for support. Chapter 583, Ruthless and Cruel. True color. Su Qingji wasn't particularly worried about Su Han. Occasionally, he would glance at Chu Yihan beside him. Seeing Chu Yihan's composed demeanor, not as cold as before, he harbored a lingering doubt in his heart. Liang Jin's female officers returned with the records of Su Han's injuries, which spanned 5 pages. Liang Jin scrutinized each page with incredulity, questioning the female officers twice. "Did you make any mistakes? Is this accurate?" A competent female officer replied, "Lord, there were no errors. Every injury on Miss Han's body has been meticulously documented." Frowning, Liang Jin hadn't anticipated such severe injuries on a fragile woman. When Jinxuan requested to see the records, Liang Jin considerately put them away, saying, "I'll inform you after organizing them." Now, it was time to gather evidence from Chu Xiaotian. Approaching Chu Xiaotian, Liang Jin stated coldly, "Prince of Yangon County, could you please move to another room? I will personally record your statement." Though reluctant, Chu Xiaotian complied, yet Liang Jin managed to extract significant information from him. After recording Chu Xiaoshan's testimony, Liang Jin was approached hesitantly by him, "Lord Liang." "What is it?" Liang Jin didn't look up. "Could you show me Su Han's, her injuries?" Despite not being as noble as Chu Yihan, Chu Xiaotian, a relative of the imperial family, appeared uneasy for the first time. Liang Jin agreed and laid the 5 pages on the table before him. "You may peruse them as you wish, but one will collect them later." As Chu Xiaotian began to read, his hand trembled, nearly dropping the papers. How could this be? His lips quivered, turning pale. Liang Jin, noticing his fixation on the first page, kindly explained, "According to my servant's examination, these injuries, from both cudgel and needle, are a mix of old and new. Miss Han likely endured regular beatings in the mansion. As for the silver needle wounds, I've heard it's a palace method to torture maids. Piercing the finger with a silver needle causes excruciating pain. Even if healed, the hands won't return to their original state. This can't be. It's impossible. Chu Xiaotian shook his head vehemently, refusing to believe his mother and sister capable of such cruelty. Su Han was his wife, his legally wedded wife. How could they treat her like this? No. No. Chu Xiaotian shook his head. This must be a false accusation. Maybe it was Su Yingxue who intentionally harmed Heiner, trying to drive her away from me. She's the one who's manipulating the relationship between us. Manipulating? Su Yingxue sneered. You're the only one who thinks it's manipulation. Little do you know, you're the one who refuses to open your eyes. Men were like this, thinking they could be mighty outside while ignoring domestic matters. Over the years, Su Han had carried the burden of the entire regional prince's mansion. How could Chu Xiaotian truly understand her struggles and grievances? All he saw were the beautiful facades Su Han had crafted for him, masking her suffering. Having gleaned sufficient information about Su Han's situation, Liang Jin bid farewell to Su Qingji. Old General, I've initiated the trial, and we will reach a verdict. Now, 111 accompany your highness to the regional prince's mansion to gather evidence. Chapter 584. Chu Yihan didn't stay. All right, it's troublesome for Lord Liang. Yingxue, see Lord Liang out of the residence, Su Qingji gestured and instructed. Su Yingxue escorted Liang Jin out. After a day's hustle and bustle, the sky had turned dark. Once Su Yingxue returned from seeing him off, she immediately ordered the kitchen to prepare dinner. Addressing everyone in the hall, she declared, "Today is both a family banquet and a quest for justice for my sister. Now, let's all sit down as a family and enjoy a good meal. Grandfather, don't you agree?" She skipped over to Su Qingji, smiling brightly. Though Su Qingji still harbored many worries, seeing Su Yingxue's radiant smile dispelled them all. He chuckled lightly, stroking his beard. Yingxue is right. Today is indeed a family banquet. Now that we're all here, let's feast. Yes, grandfather. Yes, father. Everyone responded eagerly, with no objections. However, there's always someone who dampens the mood. Su Xinlan glanced at Chu Yihan, still seated beside Su Qingji, and teased, "Ninth Prince must feel out of place tonight, having a family banquet at the Su family." Her words dripped with sarcasm. Chu Yihan wasn't a member of the Su family. Originally, he had some distant relation due to being Chu Xiaoshan's imperial uncle. Now, with Su Han breaking ties with Chu Xiaotian, Chu Yihan's relationship with the family felt awkward. Quite awkward indeed. Mo Qi felt sorry for his master. If they went through with this meal, his master's dignity would take a heavy blow. Chu Yihan stood up. "Your Highness." No one dared to remain seated. Even Su Han, despite her injuries, stood up and respectfully bowed to Chu Yihan. "Please forgive me, Your Highness. If you don't mind, please stay for dinner and allow us to express our gratitude. Heiner is correct. Your Highness has honored our mansion. Allow me to toast to you," Su Qingji insisted, urging Chu Yihan to stay. Su Dingwei also chimed in, "Please allow me to offer a toast to Your Highness as well, for your timely assistance." From the corner, Su Dingheng, who had been silent for most of the day, spoke weakly, "Your Highness, if you're not in a hurry, perhaps you could join us for dinner before departing." Since everyone was already trying to persuade him to stay and show gratitude, his additional comment didn't seem out of place. Most importantly, he felt that Chu Yihan didn't want to leave. And Su Yingxue didn't want him to leave either. She felt that way, but she kept silent. Firstly, she wasn't in a position to make decisions in front of her grandfather. Secondly, she felt she had already burdened Yihan too much that day and didn't want him to endure anymore. When Yihan glanced at Yingxue, there was a hint of reluctance in his eyes. But he quickly averted his gaze and addressed Su Qingji coldly. I have matters to attend to. This, Su Qingji was taken aback. Yihan had been in the mansion all day, yet he declined their hospitality and was about to leave. However, neither Su Dingwei nor Su Dingheng dared to stop him. Su Han remained silent. Only Su Yingxue had the power to change Yihan's decision. Yihan wasn't good at explanations, so he left after saying his piece. Mo Qi noticed Su Yingxue standing there in a daze. As he passed by her, he intentionally stepped heavily. Su Yingxue quickly snapped out of it. Grandfather, I'll see your highness off. Before Su Qingji could respond, she dashed out. After being composed all day, her hurried steps made her seem like a girl her age. Su Qingzi's frown deepened. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.